Yeah, but I didn't get rich selling coke. I got rich moving pot.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The markup was it's hard to make a lot of money selling coke. It's hard to make a lot of money selling coke.
I thought it was the opposite.
You can make good money selling small amounts of coke, but to get rich selling coke, I mean, think about it. If I could make $1,000 profit per pound, it's feasible. It's easy. Not easy, but it's much easier to sell 20 pounds of weed a week than it is to sell, I don't know, 10 kilos of coke a week, because way more people smoke pot than they use coke, right?
Right.
So
I mean, depending on where you're at, though, right? Like depending on what city you're in or what country.
But I was moving it all over the country.
But you were based in Northern California.
I was based in Oregon. I was based in Portland, Oregon. So I was shipping it to New Jersey, upstate New York.
Oh, you were shipping most of it.
Yeah,
right.
Florida, Oklahoma, Philadelphia, right? So it was Chicago. And this is in the era, this was a very unique era where we could get wholesale weed cheap, and the markup, on the East Coast and the Midwest was insane. So, and we knew that was coming to an end. So that's why we were like, we got to, before they start legalizing this shit and prices start to fall, like we got to make millions now. It felt like how the mob must have felt in the 1920s, like the Chicago mob. They were like, they can't keep booze illegal forever. They can't even keep it illegal for a long time. Like, this is insane. Everybody needs to drink. Yeah. It's the only way ugly people fuck. It's the only way. It's the only way most people get together and procreate, get through their shitty jobs. We got to get rich now, and that's what they did. So that's kind of how I felt. I was like, this is a very unique historical moment where a guy like me, who's not, I was never part of a drug cartel. I would re-up from multiple sources. Some of them were cartel growers, and but I wasn't connected. I wasn't a killer. I never carried a gun usually, and I could just go. I was just a small businessman who could make $1 million a year plus just with this, like, I didn't feel like it was a huge trade, right? 80, 100 pounds a month could make me $1 million.
At how old?
22, 23 years old.
22, making $1 million a year.
Imagine making just 80, 90,000 a month.
Fuck,
just
dude.
clean, man. You don't know what to do with that kind of money. You don't know where to hide it. You don't know how to act. I mean,
no, that's
just
a crazy
insane
thing too. When you have that much money at such a young age, that fucks you up.
Yeah, totally. It hooked me for life, dude.
What did you do for fun with that kind of money at such a young age?
I would just.
Or were you just working 24/7?
I was working 24/7. Okay. I was working 24/7. I was flying but I would go everywhere, right? Like I would go to New York City for the weekend and just be walking around Midtown Manhattan, staying in like, luxury hotels, luxury suites with like, Chinese businessmen. And I was dressed in sweatpants and like a fucking, a backwards hat. And I got 50 grand on me in cash. Like, you know what I mean? It was a superpower.
Yeah.
Just shit like that. I could go to Colombia and whenever I wanted. I could go. I could just do anything, go anywhere. That's mainly it. Like I was never ostentatious with my money because I always, I saw the future. I'm like, this is a golden goose. Don't fuck this up. Like, I need to stash this money and flip it into something legit after I get out of the game. The problem is I could never get out of the game. It just keeps bringing you back.
Just keeps luring you back.
I'm like, 1 million's good, but 2's got such a nice ring to it.
What were you doing with all the cash?
Like, where was I putting it?
Yeah. Well, what was your plan? Were you like buying real estate?
The plan was to start, because this was like the advent of Amazon really becoming, 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
It was like the advent of like online commerce. So e-commerce. So the plan was to like just start buying shit in cash and then reselling it online and legitimizing it, right? Making a company around it, taking that profit, right? Declaring it, paying tax on it. And that's how you get the money in the system. Okay. And then using that laundered money to, buy real estate, buy other cash businesses, etc.
So here's the thing. Like when you buy a house, for example,
Yeah.
the easiest example, And you have to fucking go, when you go to the bank or you go to a mortgage broker, you got to show them your bank account. You got to show them your records. Where does that money come from? How many people are paying you each month?
Right.
Where does that, like, so how do you justify all these cash deposits?
Well, that's exactly why I'd set up a company, right? And then I was buying goods, sneakers, right? This was the beginning of, so I would buy, a pair of Nikes, Portland is the Nike headquarters there. So I'd buy some Nike shoes, and then I would just resell them online on eBay to, some guys in Japan for like a, 500% markup. And boom, you take that money's run through your company. So that's legit. That looks like legit money, and you pay taxes on it. So the only sketchy part is, how did you get the money to buy the shoes in the first place?
Yes.
That's the rub, but that's what's the hardest to prove. Also, I feel like I'm giving your
right.
I feel like I'm giving
so what do you do about that?
A lesson on that. Well, there's nothing. There's there's no foolproof way to launder money.
Okay.
There's no foolproof way to do crime. But yeah, that's so yeah. In theory, they could go, if the IRS wanted to look deep enough, they could say, well, how'd you get the money to buy this and this and this, and then you wouldn't really have an answer. But also, they don't really have an answer.
Right.
It's why they can never put people they convict of like tax fraud away for too long, because the burden of proof is on the state or the federal government to convict you. So most of that is circumstantial. So that's why I always try to keep the money and the drugs separate, because if you busted me with a bunch of money, or I got audited by the IRS, and just like you said, they said, well, how did you get $10,000 to buy, all these like whatever designer purses that you were going to resell? Well, sure, maybe I don't have an answer, but you don't either. And it's your job.
Right.
And if you can't link drugs or illegal activity to that money, well, you're probably just going to give me a fine. Right. It's probably what it's going to be. Right. Or if it's an egregious amount of money that I haven't declared, then there might be some prison time. But, it's not going to be like they can't make a RICO trial out of that if they can't link illegal activity to that money.
And I guess
business.
I guess the example I made with like loans and mortgages, it doesn't really matter if you're just buying shit with cash. If you're going to somebody and buying their house just with a fucking bunch of cash, you don't have to worry about any of that.
Right. But how are you going to buy a $300,000 house with cash?
That's you might know that better than I do.
I'm asking you. I'd like to know. I'm in the market.
Well, you tried to buy a house in Colombia.
Yeah, but
right?
but the scam there was you couldn't even do it in Colombia at this point. Like their money laundering laws, because they've been influenced by the U.S. for so long now, right? So they have relatively strict money laundering laws too. But my plan was, because I wanted to buy a hotel. Because at this time, this was 2010, Colombia is starting to blow up as like a tourist destination.